Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Dan Pugh.
And I'm Shauna Harrison. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. Sometimes a person is so worried about getting into trouble that they're willing to do almost anything. They aren't even concerned about what happens to those around them or the world. Their only thought is to save their own bacon.
This is fine. Bacon is very good.
Well, the phrase save one's bacon means to avoid a difficult situation, avoid getting into trouble, or to avoid some form of danger or harm. As a kid, whenever someone was trying to keep out of trouble, I remember adults saying that they were just trying to save their bacon.
No one should be upset about trying to save your bacon. Bacon is very good, and I don't want to waste it. So saving my bacon would be fine. This seems perfectly acceptable.
Right. The problem being that when I heard this used, there wasn't any actual bacon. And so it didn't quite make sense.
Idiomatically, it is not exactly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Until I was older. And like, if I think about it logically, it still doesn't really make that much sense.
Well, maybe you just don't love bacon enough.
But the fact that this phrase does not make any sense is what places it solidly in the category of idioms. According to Oxford English Dictionary, to save one's bacon means, quote, to escape injury to one's body, to keep oneself from harm, end quote. There's a similar phrase, to bring home the bacon.
Ooh, good point.
In this case, bacon is referring to money or accomplishments, so the phrase is more about being successful in some way or providing monetary or financial support, and so on. There's a pretty clear difference, therefore, in the use and meaning of these two phrases. So we're going to primarily focus on save one's bacon. And to get us there, we will start by looking at the term bacon.
Okay, I love this.
The word bacon has been in use since at least the early 1300s in
Wow.
reference to various cuts of meat from a pig or pig carcasses, and less commonly to refer to live pigs. So also originally, bacon referred to what we now call bacon or rashers, and also
Well, who's we with rashers?
rashers would be more of a UK kind
Yeah,
of
I
European
know, that's what I'm
thing.
saying.
I see. I have no problem with rashers. It's actually like a thicker cut, like usually than bacon here. It's like this thinner. Whatever.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I did have English bacon one time when I was traveling, and it was better than American bacon. I'm sorry,
Heck
America.
yeah. Oh
I'm
my
sorry,
gosh.
Uncle Sam. But,
That's-
like, it was better.
It was so good. That's what I ate in Ireland the entire time. I was like, I got to go back to the store because I need more rashers and eggs. Like, that's my whole life now.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's so good.
It's
I'm sorry.
amazing.
I still love you, America. I just, like, the bacon is better.
It really is. So there's that. It also referred to, it was also the term that was used, bacon was the term that was used for what we now would call pork and ham, like those other cuts of the pig. Anyway, we moved on from that. Around the late 1500s, the term bacon was used briefly in reference to people. And according to Oxford English Dictionary, this use of bacon means, quote, a rustic, a clown, a chaw bacon, referring, like many of the compounds, to the fact of swine's flesh being the meat chiefly consumed by the rural population of England, end quote. So people were called a chaw bacon. This is a Shakespeare thing, from what I can tell. It's kind of like this term used to refer to somebody they were picking on or whatever.
That's wild.
It was in the 1600s that we really began to see the use of bacon in reference to a person's life or flesh. And this is when we see our phrase appear in print as well. Here's an early example from the works of Mr. Francis Rabelais, published in 1653. This particular work contains 5 books of the lives, heroic deeds, and sayings of Gargantua and his son Pantagruel.
Why don't we name people like that anymore?
I don't know, right? It's
Those
kind
are
of like,
those are super kick butt names.
right?
I love it.
Quote, at last we began to fancy that we also heard something, or at least that our ears tingled, and the more we listened, the plainer we discerned the voices, so as to distinguish articulate sounds. This mightily frightened us, and not without cause, since we could see nothing, yet heard such various sounds and voices of men, women, children, horses, etc., insomuch that Panurge cried out, Cod's belly, there's no fooling with the devil. I never find myself to have a bit of courage at sea. In cellars and elsewhere, I have more than enough. Let's fly and save our bacon. end quote. I really enjoyed reading that one because they lay out like why he's terrified, basically. He's like, we are hearing voices and yeah. So over time, the phrase is used with the subject alternating from singular to plural, including the terms his, your, my, our. Pretty much everyone is getting their bacon saved.
I mean, as it should be, because once again, I am a bacon fan.
Bacon's a good thing. We find the phrase in The Good Old Cause, or Lying in Truth, by Charles Leslie, published in 1710. Quote, "They will neither be bullied nor wheedled from their resolution and their principles by your bugbear of having something else in view, which you dare not name, but would make a secret of it, and, according to your usual dexterity, have said so much on that side as you hope may save your head in a rainy day, and so much on the other as to save your bacon thereto." End quote.
I clearly need to research bugbears. I thought they might be an invention of Dungeons and Dragons, but clearly Gary Gygax did not invent this in the 1970s since it was in use in the 1710s.
There you go. That excerpt I felt like is really good because it gives you a clear example of the meaning, as the phrases "save your head" and "save your bacon" are made equivalent in this sentence. So they're you could have just exchanged them for one another. The phrase appears in the May 15th, 1793 edition of the National Gazette out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It contains the printing of and extract of a letter from Birmingham. Quote, "When once the old lion is down, every jackass must have a kick at him. After Tom Paine had been butchered in every petty village in the kingdom, it would have been a miracle indeed had he saved his bacon at Birmingham." End quote.
Good usage.
Yeah.
Nice. And everybody knows who Thomas Paine is, right? He's the guy that wrote Common Sense.
Yeah, and I did not know, I guess, this snippet of history about some of that, and so I looked into it a little bit, and yeah, I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you just hear those little overviews of people.
Right.
A mini story uses the phrase in the February 15th, 1823 edition of the Herald of the Valley out of Fincastle, Virginia. Quote, "A captain of one of the British frigates, a man of undaunted bravery, had a natural antipathy to a cat. A sailor, who for some misconduct had been ordered a flogging, saved his bacon by presenting to his captain the following petition." End quote. The petition is fun in a satirical sort of way, and we're going to read it in the bonus segment from our behind the scenes, which airs every Friday for our patrons at patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. The Westminster budget out of London, Middlesex, United Kingdom included a take on Alice in Wonderland and the White Rabbit in a commentary piece about importing concerns. So like import-export type of stuff. The satire contains a song that is sung by a pig at the request of the White Rabbit. The song focuses on maize, but I'll just be reading the second verse of the song. Quote, "Beautiful bacon, who can feel, fond of mutton, beef, or veal, who would not fly, the world forsaken, in order to save his beautiful bacon, in order to save his beautiful bacon." End quote.
I really like anytime we reference Alice in Wonderland on the show, since the concept of like down the rabbit hole is what transitioned later into like bunny trails, and that's where we take a name from in the first place. As you would have learned if you've ever listened to episode 1, please don't do that. Just listen. Start with the most recent episode and work your way backwards until you're like, I don't want to listen any further backwards. That's my recommendation to you. But nonetheless, that is where the phrase comes from.
Yes.
And I do appreciate it when we look at other phrases that also come, from Lewis Carroll's mind.
Yeah, I do too. This one was really an interesting little snippet too. You'd have to have a bit of kind of that common like knowledge of the things that are in there in order to have the context to understand the humor of it. And I'm not aware of even all the things that were going on at the time when that was printed. So I was like, wow, that's a heavy piece ultimately, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
The phrase finds its way into the ads of the past as well. It appeared in the January 25th, 1935 edition of the Rockhampton Morning Bulletin out of Rockhampton, Queensland, Australia. In this case, the phrase is turned back around from the figurative use and turned on its head a little. The ad shows a man with a somewhat large carving knife or perhaps a sword who is chasing a pig. The pitch is for Manahans, which is selling, naturally, bacon. We'll include the image in the show notes, which are available on patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. Okay, we have several modern uses to cover, but we'll get to those right after we say thank you to our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by our amazing patrons on Patreon. And the cool thing about Patreon is it is 100% free to join the Bunny Trails community. We have new things every weekday on the feeds. On Mondays, we have a conversation about what movies, shows, books, podcasts, and whatever else everyone is enjoying. Tuesdays see early access to the week's podcast. Wednesdays have all the links, books, songs, and other content mentioned in the week's episode. Thursday has patrons-only polls. And Fridays are our lightly edited, behind-the-scenes video featuring all the cut content, goofs, and bonus facts you could imagine.
We've got some other pretty cool stuff too, like original digital artwork once a month made by me and direct access to talk with us. No algorithms getting in the way of what we see or don't see. Plus, you can get awesome name recognition like Pat Rowe does every episode. And our top spot is currently occupied by the amazing Mary Halsig Lopez. You can join the Bunny Trails community for free at Bunny Trails Pod on Patreon.
That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
Save Your Bacon was a board game released by Peter Pan Games in the 1980s. So this is a vintage but still sort of modern era here. The tagline of the game is "A pig of a game." This game involves a simple round board, basically it's like plastic, with a sort of cone-shaped haystack in the center. There are small plastic pig pieces that are added precariously to the tower to make a pile on top. Your task is to be the first to save 10 pigs, and you're saving them from the mad dogs below. Yeah, this game looks interesting.
So, fun fact.
Okay.
I had this game as a kid.
Are you serious?
I really did.
What?
I had two games that were my favorite games that were just ridiculously stupid games. Save Your Bacon and Don't Break the Ice.
Oh my
And these two
goodness.
games were games that I played a lot, and so I did have this game, and it was a lot of fun. And it is
Wow.
as ridiculous as you have made it out to be.
Okay. I was like trying to describe it. I'm like, this is all I got. I did also find a commercial of the game that
Okay.
we have a link
We
to.
will link to that commercial on our Patreon. Yeah, that will be fun. Actually, I want to watch this as soon as we're done so that I can also get that nostalgia
Oh, goodness.
because of I do remember playing this game.
Good times. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into this century then. Most of the uses in modern times are a turn of phrase or a play on words. This is common in journalism and ads and things anyway, but I found it particularly true for this phrase. One example is its use in the title of a 2010 IT World Canada article by Galen Grumman, which is a rather long blog post with suggestions for the improvement of Microsoft's status in the technology realm.
Oh, 2010. So yeah, we're in. Yeah,
This was
okay.
like
All right,
Windows
fair enough.
6.5, 7, Kin and Vista and stuff like that. The post is titled 5 Ways Steve Ballmer Can Save Microsoft's Mobile Bacon. The article begins, quote, "It appears that Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer has finally woken up and realized that Microsoft's laughable mobile position is more than a product failure, but a potential loss of relevance in the computing world of the future, where desktop PCs are like TVs and the real action is in mobile devices of all stripes," end quote. Interestingly, the word bacon doesn't appear in the rest of the post, but we get the gist of the article, I think, from that little snippet. The phrase was used in an ad in 2013 for a company called ClearPoint. The commercial song is called Penny Pincher. trying to save my bacon. It's a play on words in multiple ways, as the character is a pig trying to trim the fat in the budget, saving pennies, and also trying to stay out of trouble.
Okay, hang on. Trim the fat is a very good phrase, too, though, for this particular one, especially for a pig to be using it. That's very meta.
It is so much. So this is like a debt reduction kind of company. Here are some of the lyrics. Quote, I use many tactics to try to save my bacon, but the painful fact is my money's always taken. Clipping coupons, eating spam, selling off a bit of ham. Expired yogurt is a deal, depending how it makes you feel. They call me penny pincher. I'm trying to save my bacon. Because I'm always juggling the bills I need to pay. Ugh, there's got to be a better way. End quote. Saving My Bacon is a book by Melanie Johnston that was released in 2019. Here is a synopsis. Quote, being a young and only child, Claire finds herself talking to and making friends with the pigs on her not-so-great father's farm. As she grows older, she comes to realize that the pigs' lives will be short unless she can escape and take them with her. And this is where her adventure begins. Taking the pigs in the farm lorry, she sets off on a journey to a new life, finally ending up in a village that feels like home with people that embrace her and her pigs and invite her to live on one of their farms. The locals are fascinated by her, and as she makes friends, she begins to realize why she has a gift, a special gift. This book would appeal to children that are animal lovers and shows how much love animals can give in return. End quote. There are quite a few books and other items that are related to saving money that use the phrase save my bacon. And this is where that turn of phrase kind of thing comes in, because the idiom save my bacon is talking about, safety, life, whatever. And they're just kind of flipping it with the bring home the bacon phrase there. I found one item from the store, My Money Matters. They create budget trackers, including savings challenges and other money management supports. The item I found is a laminated pouch designed to encourage saving money. It has an image of a frying pan on the front with various food items and says, Save My Bacon on the front. In this case, it has little check boxes so that you can mark what money you've put into the pouch to get to the total amount, the goal amount.
Okay, this should be your primary thing, a secondary, a tertiary, that kind of thing?
It's more like over time you put in money into the pouch to reach your goal. So in this one, the goal is $35 or 35 pounds. And so it has little check boxes for 1, 5, whatever. And so you can put money in there and check box which ones.
Oh, I see. Done. So the Save My Bacon is like we're saving our butts. But the imagery on the frying pan is only just to be a checkoff thing.
Bacon,
that's it.
Yeah,
okay.
And
so it's breakfast
kind of
foods, but it's not really
the idea.
It's also British breakfast foods, by the way, because I see fried tomatoes there.
Yes,
which is a very distinct that's a very distinct.
Also, the money
beans.
In the image is pounds that's being tucked into.
Also, good point. Great. You know
that
what?
That was what clued me in.
Actually, that probably should have been the first thing I noticed, that it was not U.S. dollars, but instead British pounds. So yeah, but what I saw first was the tomatoes, and then followed by the baked beans and the breakfast, and those were the things that I was like, this is not America. That's the British version.
Oh, goodness. I think this is clever. It kind of combines those phrases together in one thing to save money. And yeah, I've never used the cash method for budgeting or that sort of deal, but
the envelope method, I think, would be the way to go.
This is a cute design if it's your sort of thing. So
envelopes are great. I definitely used envelope method early on in my life, and early on when I was trying to I just didn't have enough money to get around, so we put money in envelopes, and that it went here, it went there, and that way I could fund everything that I needed to fund, and it helped me prioritize things. Which this is, I know that you use a different term for it here, probably for the UK version, but in the US, this idea of putting money in all of your budget, your monetary things in an envelope, and then being able to do that. I think there's a lot of digital versions of that today, but it was very much a real thing when you had to go in to pay your electric bill, right? Before I could have my electric bill, like I could go in and pay it out of my bank account, and then eventually just have it auto draft. I literally had to go into a grocery store or someplace that partnered with my electric bill so I could pay my electric bill, and that meant putting the money to pay my electric bill in a literal envelope so that I could take that envelope then to pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely a thing that I did early in my life.
Uh-huh.
Probably until the early 2000s, maybe 2005 or 6 is when I started being able to switch things to some online versions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which still was before the iPhone. So like wild.
That's crazy. Yeah. I think it's great. Like if people need to do that, and there are some places where I'm sure using cash is more prevalent than what my experience is. Everywhere I go, I can use a card pretty much for anything and everything, vending machines even. I just tap my card and there you go. So yeah, I think there's some validity to it though for people who definitely need to use cash. So. Save Your Bacon is an at-home escape room style game. This seller, Printable Escape Room, on Etsy has this description for it. Quote, "Go hog wild with this printable escape room adventure for families, adults, and teens. This sizzling game includes 13 challenges to solve in an immersive escape room atmosphere. Clues to the answers are on the wall, floor, or in envelopes players open as the game goes on. Ages 12 and up are ideal, and hints and detailed solutions are all included to make the adventure stress-free. Ideal for up to 6 players, and with large groups, you can print it out twice and have them race each other. A fun activity included at the end is sure to bring some laughs. Gameplay is about 60 minutes. 4 fun bacon recipes included if you want to make them for a squealing good time. If you're looking for a party that's high on the hog, this is it." End quote.
It's a good mix of phrases in there.
Yeah, I thought that was clever and well done. In this game, you play as the janitor at a factory that produces turkey bacon, and apparently you are attempting to save the world's bacon from the wild plans of the turkey bacon factory's CEO.
All right.
Yeah, so interesting there. There's a trend that I noticed circulates every couple of years in which friends send cards. Not the friends sending cards happens every year. There's like Friends Day, Friendship Day. There's a bunch of those. Anyway, but in this trend, the cards and social media posts that are sent to amongst friends, they say something similar to "Thanks for always saving my bacon." And Fresno State University took this idea a step further. A recent feature titled "Faculty and Staff High Fives" from June 19th to July 2nd appeared in their campus news. The piece begins, quote, "Give your colleagues a high five for things such as excellent customer service, saving my bacon, and going above and beyond. High fives are easy to give. Simply click Give a High Five and fill out the form for a faculty or staff member only. Your message will be delivered straight to the recipient's inbox, and they will be acknowledged weekly in campus news. Continue below to read about how your colleagues are going above and beyond to help the campus community." End quote. And here is one of the responses under Saved My Bacon. Quote, "Accounting services. Cynthia and her accounting team are the best. Whether it is assisting with a mistake made or finding where a payment is, they always help when asked. They are definitely among the hardest working with the least recognition. Thank you, Cynthia and team." End quote.
Hey, great job, Cynthia, and
Yeah.
your whole team. Good on all of you.
I thought this was a fun idea. It's kind of awesome, actually.
I like that. And then it got aired on a podcast, so like even
Yeah.
better. Someone in India just heard us tell you, Cynthia, that you're doing a great job.
You and
your team are doing
at Fresno
amazing.
State.
So well done.
Yeah. Well, I love the positive shift this phrase has taken in more recent years. While some still use the phrase to describe selfish or desperate efforts, most people are using it to describe good things, whether people are encouraging themselves or others to use money wisely, or saying thanks to those who helped them out of a tight spot. Saving someone's bacon is amazing. We should all strive to be that friend for each other, and I hope you each have a friend who is there for you and ready to save your bacon. That's about all we have time for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references that we should have included, reach out to us on Patreon at patreon.com/bunnytrailspod or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
All right, it is Patrons Poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons, nuts in your banana bread or nah?
Silly question.
It's not a silly question. It's a very good question. 33% of our voters said yes, nuts. And 67% said no, thank you.
All right.
Jan said, quote, sure, bring it. I'm okay with nuts, raisins, coconut, all the controversial food options, end quote.
Brave.
Yeah, I agree. That is a brave stance, Jan, but I stand by your ability to make that stance. Heather shared, quote, I'll abstain from voting because nuts, yes. Banana bread, nah. But other baked goods I'm good with. I especially like pecans and walnuts, end quote.
Okay.
All right, you know what, Heather, that's all right, fair enough. There are sometimes we ask these questions and they are intentionally meant to drive one kind of answer. But of course, real life is always more broad than the simple questions we ask.
Yep. And I appreciate you leaving more banana bread for me, so it's fine.
Naturally, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because, like, who doesn't love banana bread? Heather, apparently. I'm not going to judge you for that, Heather. That's okay. But I love banana bread, so I will eat your share. Or Shauna and I will split it, either way.
Mary said, quote, sometimes yes, sometimes no for me. I bake quick breads or muffins about once a week, so I like to mix things up. Sometimes I'll leave the banana/pumpkin/applesauce/whatever bread plain. Sometimes I add walnuts and or raisins, and sometimes I'll even add chocolate chips. It all depends on my mood, end quote. Dan and I are both on board with chocolate chips being added because that's just delicious.
Naturally, yeah.
I'm almost always a no to nuts in my banana bread or any other like baked goods, except pecan pie, which obviously has to have them. One thing I'm always a yes on is vanilla ice cream, or in my case, vanilla frozen dessert made from oat milk or coconut milk or cashew milk. But people aren't usually talking about dairy alternatives when they're saying there are nuts in the baked goods. So Emily said, quote, plain nuts as a snack, please, end quote. And yeah, that's delicious too.
Seems real. Yeah. I don't like nuts in my baked goods except for maybe peanuts in like peanut butter cookies. But I do like pistachios, almonds, and peanuts not in baked goods. So basically my answer is the same as Emily's.
Nice. I like that. You're
Emily, I'm right there with you. 100%. I like a lot of nuts. Like I like them by themselves, but I don't want to start cooking with them, except peanuts I'm okay with in like peanut butter cookies and that kind of stuff.
I think
or like on my ice cream, like peanut butter parfait from Dairy Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had one of those since I was probably a child, but the memory of them is very good, which is probably better than the actual taste of them.
You probably shouldn't have one because it won't hold up to your memory of it. No. But I'm with you though. You know those like big, huge things of the mixed nuts from whatever Planters or something, like, you know, people don't give those types of things as gifts anymore. And I'm saying
because they're expensive.
Maybe that's why.
Because they're stupid expensive. Yeah, they're dumb expensive.
I'm like, bring it on, guys. This is delicious. Like,
I don't like anybody enough to give them like mixed nuts.
That's
too much money.
I guess I don't pay attention to the price of them, but sure,
it's dumb money. Sense. No, thank you. Well, as a reminder, our silly polls mean absolutely nothing and are not scientifically valid. But patrons of all levels, including our free tiers, can take part. Head over to patreon.com/bunnytrailspod to take this week's poll. All right, thank you for joining us. We will talk to you again next week. Until then, remember, words belong to their users.